You finally let your guard down. You stopped second-guessing every text. You allowed yourself to believe this one might actually stay, and that's when they disappeared. Not with an explanation, not with a fight, just distance. And you're left wondering what you did wrong. Here's what makes it unbearable. It's not the leaving, it's the timing. Everything was good, better than good. They told you they felt safe with you. They opened up, they let you in, and then, without warning, they pulled back like you'd become a threat. You replay every conversation, every moment, searching for the mistake you must have made. But here's what your mind won't accept. You didn't do anything wrong. The safety itself was the trigger. This isn't about you being too much, too intense, or too vulnerable. This is about what happens in the nervous system when someone who fears intimacy finally feels it. You're not broken for trusting. They're not a villain for retreating. What you're experiencing is a collision between two attachment systems. Yours moved toward connection, theirs moved toward self-protection. And the moment they felt truly seen, truly safe, their brain registered it as danger. This is called intimacy fear response, rooted in what psychologists identify as avoidant attachment patterns. When closeness increases, so does the unconscious need to restore distance, not because they don't care, but because their system equates emotional exposure with loss of control, and control to them is survival. Let's go deeper. Attachment theory, developed by John Bowlby and expanded by Mary Ainsworth, shows us that our early relational experiences shape how we respond to intimacy as adults. If someone grew up in an environment where emotional needs were dismissed, vulnerability was punished, caregivers were inconsistent or invasive, their brain learned a crucial lesson. Closeness leads to pain. So the nervous system builds defenses, not consciously, not with malice, but automatically. This is the work of the autonomic nervous system, specifically the dorsal vagal shutdown response. When emotional intensity rises beyond what feels manageable, the system doesn't just fight or flee, it numbs. Psychologist Stan Tatkin calls this the avoidant island, a mental space where they retreat to regulate alone, where your presence, no matter how gentle, feels like intrusion. And here's the paradox. The safer you make them, the more terrified they become, because safety means they might need you, and need, to them, feels like annihilation. This is not rational. This is implicit memory, the body remembering what the mind has forgotten. So how do you recognize this pattern, and what does understanding it actually give you? Here are 5 psychological principles that explain what's happening beneath the surface. Number 1, the safety paradox. The closer they get, the more their system activates counterbalancing behaviors. These include becoming critical, creating conflict, emotional numbing, physical or conversational distance. This isn't cruelty. It's their brain attempting to restore what psychologist Dr. Sue Johnson calls optimal distance, the point where connection exists, but dependency doesn't. You didn't push them away. The intimacy itself did. Number 2, deactivation strategies. Dr. Philip Shaver's research on attachment identifies specific deactivating strategies avoidant individuals use unconsciously. Minimizing the importance of the relationship, focusing on your flaws to justify distance, idealizing past partners or future possibilities, suppressing emotions and needs. These aren't thoughts. They're cognitive defenses the brain uses to reduce the discomfort of vulnerability. When you see these patterns, you're not witnessing rejection, you're witnessing self-protection. Number 3, Phantom X syndrome. Sometimes they'll bring up a past relationship,
Suddenly, an ex becomes relevant again, not because they want them back, but because comparison creates distance. Psychologically, this is a displacement mechanism. By redirecting emotional energy towards someone unavailable, they relieve the pressure of being present with you. It's not about the ex, it's about escaping the vulnerability of now. Number 4, the freeze response. Intimacy, for them, can trigger a dorsal vagal freeze state. This is below fight or flight. It's a shutdown. Their texts become shorter, their tone flatter. They stop initiating, not because they're done, but because their nervous system is overwhelmed. Dr. Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory explains this. When the system can't fight and can't flee, it collapses inward. And from that place, connection feels impossible. Number 5, the phantom rebound window. Here's what most people miss. After they pull away, there's often a return. Once they've restored enough distance, their system calms. They reach out, they act warm again, and you think, finally, we're back. But unless the underlying pattern is recognized, the cycle repeats. Because the problem was never you, it was their tolerance threshold for intimacy, and without awareness, that threshold doesn't change. Let's tie this together. What you're experiencing is the collision between two nervous systems with different blueprints for safety. Yours seeks closeness to regulate, theirs seeks distance. This is the anxious avoidant trap, first described by Dr. Amir Levine and Rachel Heller. The more you reach, the more they retreat. The more they retreat, the more you reach. Not because either of you is wrong, but because your systems are in opposing regulatory modes. Understanding doesn't fix it, but it does something more important. It removes the illusion that you caused it. You didn't. You were simply present, and presence, to someone conditioned to survive alone, feels like drowning. So what now? You don't chase, you don't fix, you don't try to prove your worth to someone whose system can't yet hold it. You recognize the pattern, you honor your own need for reciprocity, and you understand that their withdrawal is not a reflection of your value, it's a reflection of their capacity. Some people aren't ready for the intimacy they say they want, not because they're lying, but because their nervous system hasn't learned that closeness can be safe. And that's not yours to teach, that's theirs to heal. You were never too much. You were just enough to make them feel something they weren't ready to feel. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let them go.